Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be talking about kind of a community thing that I have observed happening in the last week or two. I mean, it's happened more often than that, but it's come up a lot in a lot of conversation in the last week or two, and I would like to get your guys' opinion on it. Now, I don't ever assume that my opinion or my observations or my version of anything is correct. In fact, I can only share what I see, and then I always hope that whatever I bring forward is going to be able to open a conversation about anything, whether it's a book review or the Saturday conversations like we're about to have. I can only share my perspective and then exchange that with anybody else who wants to be a part of it. So anybody is able to bring in their perspective, their understanding of these things, and I just want to share what I see, what I think, and how I'm interpreting it. And then maybe we can find somewhere in the conversation of what is the truth of all of this and come to a better understanding. I mean, one of my monikers is idiot because I'm constantly learning new things, and I want to invite everybody to just have a conversation, because so much nowadays is about attacking people, being right, feeling attacked by other people, and I think that even causes some of these conversations where people are not actually against each other, but it makes you feel like you are because you're disagreeing somewhere, or you think you're disagreeing somewhere, but you're really not. So that's going to make more sense as we actually get into this. It's a discussion about owing, like, what do you owe if you become a part of a community? Is there such a thing as owing an obligation to promote your peers as an indie author or a creator of any kind? But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lamwai, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first Monday of the month, we bask in the creativity of those submissions, except for this month, since we just did the cringe stream on last Friday. I gave it a little extra week so that anybody who wanted to do that and got, bogged down by doing the cringe stream last minute has time to participate in Lamwai. So that'll be on Monday. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover to the Fresh Meat feature found in the link tree down below, then it will be read here on the channel at a random interval to hopefully help more readers find your work. Because I don't know about you, but for me, discoverability is like one of the hardest things, aside from like convincing other people that your book is worth reading. And so hopefully that's what the Fresh Meat feature does, giving everybody a fair chance where it's just read, and it's up to your cover and your writing to impress the reader. There are very few restrictions on that, but there are some restrictions, like politics, and make sure that it's edited, because I will open your file and read it. And if I see too many editing mistakes, I'm just like, no. And that's like tenses changing every other sentence. This is not like minute word issues. This is like, yeah. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they are available at any of your favorite places to get books, including the library upon request. And then if you don't like anything that I say, I accept hate mail in the forms of angry comments, personal dress downs of my personality or everything you think is wrong with me in the form of book reviews, emails, and Majima merchandise sent directly to my P.O. box. Like, that is my favorite way to receive hate mail, though. Can't lie. With that said, let's get into the topic then. Before we get really into the meat of it with a bunch of with a handful of screen caps to sort of show you the discussions that have been going on, I want to preface this with the idea that if you start using a moniker that associates you with a group, an established group of some kind, or even makes you parallel to that group, and you start using the resources of that group, I think that it is likely that you will be critiqued on whether or not you are being a part of that community, or if you are grifting on the name and the popularity of that community. Now, if you're always saying that you are for indie and doing indie things, and you associate yourself with the group of indie people, like a specific group, not just in general, but maybe you got secular indies freaks, and it's a specific hashtag, a specific group, and you're like, bam, this is us. If you start using that and then building your base off of that, there may be an expectation that you will then feature that kind of content. two of the titles that I have seen this specifically around include Iron Age and Comics Gate. And those are very specific, established groups of people that are looking for something outside of the norm. In some cases, like especially with Iron Age, it's, at least from my tangential like side view of it, it looks like a political movement. It has a heavy religious thing involved, which is something that I'm like, I've seen some of them in there saying that they should be enforcing religious beliefs or morals in there, and I'm just like, this is uncomfortable. But you know, once you start associating yourself with stuff, there ends up being some sort of established, this is the culture of it and this is what we expect of you, or else we're not going to do that thing. It's one of the reasons why I have never really wanted to be associated with any specific group, except for the mistakes, because I mean, I made that one. But a lot of groups sort of expect you to think or act or behave a certain way with very little wiggle room. In some cases, there might be some, but in a lot of places, there's not. And in this case, if you imagine associating yourself with like Iron Age or Comicsgate, where the whole idea of it was in order to bring a group of people with similar interests together and then lift them up together, what you're going to end up having is people flocking to you because they see a tag that is associated with you and them, so they support you. But then that also means they're going to expect to see that content at some point. And if you don't share that content, but you do use that name, then it ends up feeling like you're grifting, like you're using them in order to get popularity while also not putting in any of the work because you're using the community tool. And there's almost always this expectation where if you're going to say that you are part of a community, then there's an idea that you're going to give back. Now, obligation and owing in that way, you never actually have to, but you can't be surprised when people start critiquing you for not giving back to a group that you have just taken advantage of. Here's an example. Imagine you are a writer and you have joined a writing group where you all just submit work and then get feedback on that work. And so you submit pages, like 30 pages to be read every week to have your book critiqued. Nobody is going to say anything until perhaps you've constantly submitted, and every time it's been somebody else's work on the platter to be, you know, discussed, you're either absent or you pass. Now, you don't have to actually give anybody a critique, but if you only come to use the tools and you never give back to the community, it's not going to be a surprise if somebody either doesn't like you or critiques you for that or says, like, why aren't you being a contributing member? That's kind of the same thing here, whereas if you use the term like Iron Age or Comicsgate to get into that community, to use those resources, and then you come back and say, I don't owe you anything. Okay, yeah, you don't, but then you use those tools, so don't be surprised if people critique you for using those tools and feeling like you're a liar or a grifter or something else. That makes any sense. And we're going to get into what exactly I see and why I'm saying or reading what I'm seeing right now with some of these tweets, where we go, starting with Draw and Talk. He says, what are everyone's thoughts on this? I never like it when people make it sound like you have an obligation to promote others. There are obviously pros to promoting others, but there are also tons of cons that could hurt the creator. Regardless, everyone is entitled to their opinion. Now, Draw and Talk isn't wrong about this. Nobody is owed anybody to promote or do anything. Again, I just have the example I gave where if you join a community, it may be expected that you at least give back to the community, that you don't just take advantage of the community, but that's only if you join a specific community to do a specific thing. There are also tons of pros and cons to promoting others, such as your expectations of those relationships with others. Like if you join a group, some people might think that you can only say positive things in order to promote people. I have been kicked out of a couple different groups, one of them including the Writers on Minds, who now pretend I don't exist because instead of politically reviewing books of my peers, I was legitimately reviewing books of my peers. I was cornered in DMs and I was told not to do just book reviews that were critical because we were supposed to stand up against the mainstream. And I said, I don't weaponize book reviews because my word is what matters. Like if I can't be trusted, then nothing matters. Like if my opinions, if my tastes can't be trusted, then there's no reason for me to do book reviews or recommendations because like nothing I say can be trusted to be true. And I don't like weaponizing book reviews. I like to keep it about the book. I don't even like talking about the authors when I'm talking about the books if I don't have to. So that's one of the cons. You can end up creating, adversarial relationships with your peers because they only expect positive things to be said about them. I've had a couple other instances where I have read my peers' books, gave an honest review of them, and then the peers have been passive aggressive at me online in their comments, either calling me stupid, saying that I was ill-equipped to talk about their books because it's not my genre, or in one case, the author went on a 3-month campaign against other reviewers, and then when others said they weren't interested in continuing her book, they asked if it was my fault and if I was making them not be interested. And it's, I don't have that kind of power. I just talk about books. So you can end up with adversarial relationships. A lot of people, especially in specific communities, don't ever want to be criticized. And I think that has a lot to do with opiners as well, is a lot of people are liars. A lot of people are just trying to climb a ladder. And I don't know, I can't tell you who is doing what and who is honest, but you end up with a problem when people start saying, hey, don't criticize me because I will pull up the ladder because I don't want to talk to people who criticize me. And it happens a lot. One of the people in these text messages that we're going to go through actually has a video up that says, stop criticizing the big creators because the big creators won't want to talk to you or about you or share with you if you're critical of them. And like, understandable, but also that ends up falling into the same idea of, access journalism in a way, is you're only allowed to prosper if you get the approval of other people by not criticizing them. So it's a trade-off. It's one of the reasons I never wanted to be any part of any group. I just want to be honest. I want to connect with people honestly, and it is what it is. So those are some of the cons. Other cons are like, if you support somebody's work, then the people who don't like you may take their hate of you onto these other people and then try to bomb those other people because they don't like you, and that person's got your support, which means you must like them. You also have an issue of credibility. If you're not like, even if you're as straight as you can possibly be by saying, hey, I just like the flavor of this, people might take your taste and your recommendation as ways to measure your credibility as well. And so if they don't like something that you recommended, they may see it as less credible of you. But again, that has to do with your reputation and how people perceive the way that you make recommendations. Like if you give only recommendations or only criticisms, you may undermine your own authority by just constantly being too positive or too negative, even when something is garbage, especially when people start coming back on it and being like, you said that this was amazing, but it is a hot mess. You got to be honest about why you think a hot mess is great. Like I am with Empress Teresa. It might be a hot mess, but it is a freaking fun hot mess. That's all I could say. But some of the pros also include that you can build relationships, that you actually get to talk about books, about stories, about things that aren't at the top of everybody's list. You can introduce new ideas. And those are some of the things that I've really enjoyed with talking about new books or kind of less mainstream books, even if they are traditionally published, is I get to bring new ideas, new discussions, new characters to be discussed here on the channel by reading other people's work. You also share success, you share passion, and you connect with other people through these new stories. Instead of reviving properties from 40 plus years ago, now we can bask in the creativity of people today who are creating new things today. And discover that. Anyway, so continuing on with this, there are all sorts of pros and cons, and if you feel like adding any more in the comments below, please do. So then we continue on with Dolan Delay saying, McDonald's doesn't promote Wendy's, Marvel doesn't promote DC, and there are no obligations to promote anyone else, they're competition, but it is nice to do. Okay, so correction on this, because my writer peers are not my competition. You know why that is? It's because nobody can do what I do. Even if somebody writes another book of ghosts in Baltimore, they don't have my vision. They don't have my personality. They don't have my experiences or my perspective, and they're not going to be able to make the thing that I make. People are going to come to my books to experience the stories that I have to tell. If I write a Western, / when I write a Western with Monty, it doesn't matter if there are a million other Westerns out there. People are going to come to see the story that I had to tell. We're not selling the same thing. Not to mention that this is the kind of mindset that inspires stuff like the Kate Karan, where she went to her peers' profiles and then downvoted their stuff, 1-starred their stuff, because she felt like she was in competition and she needed to stand out. Guess what? If you're not creating to market, if you're not just creating garbage, People are going to come to you for your storytelling style. Nobody is competition with you because you are the only one who can write what you write. Not to mention how stupid this idea is that McDonald's and Wendy's, whatever, are that they're competition. They may be in the same business, but McDonald's and Wendy's have not put the other one out of business. Marvel and DC have not put the other one out of business. And in fact, haven't they had crossovers before? Like, you can work together by offering something different and then bringing it together. Or you're just going to feed different people. Like, the people who prefer McDonald's are not necessarily going to go to Wendy's because they prefer McDonald's sandwiches or vice versa. So just because I write a certain way doesn't mean that I'm going to be competition with you, because we're not necessarily going to serve the same writing taste, the same reading taste, the same audience, the same mood. We're not the same. We're going to look at what the 2 tweets were that he had posted in that initial comment. Creators promote creators. At least that's how things should go. This is partially true because I've also had situations in the past where I've also talked about them here on the channel where there's the expectation that creators will always promote creators and only say positive things, and creators that will not say anything critical of other creators because they don't want to have critical things said about their work. Like, it's the authors trading reviews with other authors. So you have to make yourself, you have to show how you are credible as a promoter, as a recommender. Like, as a promoter, your word is what matters. And if you can't instill confidence that you will be honest and you will recommend stuff that you truly believe in, then it gets hard. And you have Vito Comedy saying, all artists have a moral obligation to assist other artists. Anyone who focuses solely on their own successes while making no efforts to lift up others is a genuinely bad person. Now, that is a strong statement. And that's also using the word obligation. Now, again, I think this goes back to the idea of the critique group where you say, I'm going to use these tools for my benefit and then I'm not going to give back. If you say that you are somebody who is supporting specifically indies, right? And you say that you want to support indies, you want to find indies, and then people flock to you because you say you're going to talk about indies, and then you don't talk about indies, you're very likely going to receive criticism, because what exactly are you doing to support indies when you talk about Marvel and DC 50 million times a year, and it's the same video of Brie Larson 50 times in a year? Like, people are going to ask questions, and you can't not expect it. People will also question why you use certain words to describe yourself if you just don't put in an effort. And I think that's more what it is. At least that's how I interpret it. This is a very strong statement, and I'm not trying to put words into Vito's mouth so he can say whatever he wants to say. But I think if you say that you want to be a part of a change or of doing something, then you kind of have an obligation to show it, because words are cheap. You can build a reputation off absolutely false words. Actions mean everything. And it doesn't have to mean everything that you do is a reference to indies or it's always lifting up indies. But if you say that you're for something, then you should probably try to make an effort to show in your actions that you are also for that thing that you say, right? That's kind of how I see it. I don't think that you're necessarily a bad person if you don't uplift other creators, but I do think that you're a liar if you say that you will or that you are for other creators and then you do nothing to lift up other creators that can't give you something. Like, that's also a thing I've seen where people say, hey, I support creators, I support other creators. However, you must have an audience that you can bring to me. It must be a relevant size in order to bring it to me. I'm like, reading a little bit on the cloud chasing right there. We got Ethan Man Skyver responding to Donald Delay. And Ethan Man Skyver says, we aren't big corporations. We're small players trying to compete with the power of a mainstream that holds all of the cards, except for our support of each other. Without that, there is no parallel economy. I thought everyone knew and understood this. Now, the parallel economy is yet another thing that is a specific group of people. And I don't believe in the parallel economy, because I think that the parallel economy is just a way to divide people and morally and purity test people based on whether or not you think that they support your thing, or to put pressure on people for whether or not they support your thing. Because the parallel economy is, I'm going to give my money to only creators or people who I think support my beliefs and my politics and whatever. I want to focus on connecting people through my creativity. So I don't want to make my politics part of my platform. I don't want to make my religious or moral views part of my platform beyond using it as part of how I decode text, right? Or stories. That's always going to be in the way that I write, in the way that I read, in the way that I analyze. There's no getting away from that. But I don't have to say, this is how I voted. This is what my beliefs are. This is what I think about voting. Like, I don't need to do any of that. And I shouldn't be pressured to do any of that. And the parallel economy is specifically paying to support that. It goes back to a video I did a couple months ago, last year, where it had Nick Rakita saying that he was supporting ISOM not because of the comic being good, but because he supported the morals and the ideas of the creator. And I called that video, "This is why your art sucks," or "This is why art sucks." Because it's all support of the idea and the morals and not, or the assumed morals, and not of the story. And it's the same reason that a lot of mainstream stuff gets critiqued for the same reason. It's, I don't care that the story is garbage. I just care that it supports the correct politics. And so parallel economy is garbage for that. What you should be supporting is finding stories that you like, characters that you like, ideas that you like, and supporting that. Vito is here again saying it's honestly baffling that they don't, and Ethan says some folks are feeding them utter self-interested bullshit, which is true. So many people are feeding themselves self-interested bullshit. And go over here to A Drink with Crazy, and I'm not gonna lie, I have seen his video where he says, hey, stop criticizing big players, and a lot of what he does is talk about Marvel, DC, and Eric July, who are all people and all subjects that can give him extra stuff. Now, I'm not gonna say anything about him as a person, because I don't know anything about him as a person, but he was going back and forth with Ethan Van Sciver, but doesn't respond to smaller players, it seems like, because what do we have to offer, right? So then A Drink with Crazy says, this conversation went so far away from its source of origin, at least I saw when it popped up this morning. It was about people expecting other people to promote them. You should earn your right to be promoted, not expect a handout. Down with B.A. Turner, it says, very, very, very few are expecting or demanding it. Most of us just believe that creators should promote other creators. It's not unreasonable by any means and a simple opinion, but sadly, many folks twist it out of context. And A Drink with Crazy says, I disagree with the should part. It's asking for someone's time and labor for free, and I don't jive with that. I don't see the problem with saying that you should support people that you like. It's the same as going, look, I live in this neighborhood and you shouldn't throw garbage on the ground. I live in this neighborhood and you shouldn't turn your radio on blast after 10 p.m. at night. Like, is it a demand on other people? Not really. It's a suggestion to be a good neighbor. It's a suggestion to support the kind of community that you want to have. Go and read whatever you want to read and then share it. Like, literally just share whatever, maybe other than DC, Marvel, and Eric July. Like, is that too much? And again, you can do whatever you want, but people are going to criticize you if you say you're part of this movement and then you don't show parts of that movement. Like, it's not a demand, it's an analysis. And if you are going to use those things and profitize off those things, don't be surprised when people start criticizing you for it. That's when it starts feeling like a self-serving thing where it's like, hey, don't question me. I am freaking above you, plebeian. Please. See where I'm coming from with that? Maybe, maybe not. Let me just reiterate. There is no expectation that he has to, but he says that he should, that he has an issue with the should part. Does he have an issue with you should pick up garbage if you see it on the ground so that we can keep our neighborhood nice? You should turn your music down at 10 p.m. at night. You should be a good neighbor and not trash the neighborhood on your way out because you've moved. Like, all of those things are also expectations, but it's part of being that community. You should be grateful if your friend donates money to you for a cause because your house burned down. Do you have to be grateful? No, you can be an asshole, but then other people can say, hey, kind of an asshole. Does that make sense? Any more sense? It just feels nitpicky at that point. B.A. Turner continues with, should does not equate with a demand. It's a recommendation or a suggestion. You can disagree with it, but it is merely a preference or opinion. And there is no ask implied, but also everyone does have the right to ask politely for promotion, just like others. Oh yeah, another should is if you're visiting another country, you should abide by the rules of that country. You don't have to, that's for sure. And a lot of people go to other countries and break the laws. but you should follow the law out of respect for the country, for your hosts, for your peers. Like, it's not that hard to understand. And so just saying, well, I don't like the fact that you say should. Okay, you just seem like somebody that doesn't want to help other people. I'm sorry, that's what it looks like. A Drink with Crazy says, so are you ignoring the fact that so many people out there are saying that large creators have an obligation to promote smaller creators? You realize that that is the argument that the rich must pay their fair share. It is not the same argument to say, hey, maybe be a good neighbor. Okay, that is a garbage take. B.A. Turner says, I'm countering it by saying I do not see that many people saying that it's an obligation. I see more people just saying that they should like to see more promotion from bigger folks. And that's also not a problem, because guess what? A lot of these people make their profiles like A Drink with Crazy, and a lot of the anti-mainstream people say, hey, how about Amazon should follow the lore of the original stories that they are taking? Oh, they should support the fans. Okay, so then who are you to tell them, like Marvel, DC, Amazon, whatever, to do what you want to do? Just do it yourself. Except, with properties of your own. Like, this is how far we can take it if should is such a problem. I would like to be able to see this. And so if I'm saying, hey, I want to find new content, I would love to see bigger creators find new content. If I have creators saying, hey, we support indie movements, they should show that they truly support indie movements by sharing indie content that they find, whether they like it or not, like however they choose to share it. B.A. Turner continues, no different than people saying that they would like to see more rich people donate for good causes. Again, it's a preference. And again, it's just having a comment. Kenny Correa says, funny, a lot of people who are constantly critiquing Eric never felt the obligation or felt that they should support him. They were very happy to wish failure upon his endeavors. It only after the book and company became a success that they then started to apply all of these demands. Now, I don't know all of the drama around Eric July because I don't freaking care. I saw him last year because he was being touted around as the non-woke comic, and nobody would be honest about the freaking comic because they were all too busy kissing his butt, and or there are haters that just want to rip everything down, and so they go to every little tiny detail, and so you can't get a clear image because people can be just as biased angrily as they can positively, and it's not helpful to anyone. But a lot of these people also see promotion as only something positive. That's incorrect. Any publicity is good publicity. So criticism is also promotion of the work. But some people will not see it like that. And so they will only see it as, if you scratch my back, I scratch yours, instead of seeing people that even talk about your work as being promoters of your work. So that's also one of these things. They got that hierarchy where you are not allowed to criticize them, or else the door is going to be shut on you and you were always just a hater. Ethan Van Sciver responded to A Drink with Crazy as, there's a difference between expecting a handout as a creator and outright refusing to help your peers. We're competitors only in the mildest sense. Our actual competition is the awful messaging of the woke mainstream and its refusal to support indie creators who oppose it. Chris Bacon down here says, until you can put out a book on par with Dante's Inferno, you are owed to nothing. And A Drink with Crazy says, even then, nobody owes you anything. Thanks for watching the show, though. How are you going to know if somebody writes something that is up to par of whatever you think is worth promoting? Again, nobody is saying, very few, let me correct that. Very few people are saying you actually have an obligation. It's if you want to be a good neighbor, if you want to show that your word actually has any meaning. How about this? Let's go with this. If you want your word to have any weight whatsoever, you should follow through with action. Am I telling you to do something? No. Is that an obligation? No. But if you don't follow through, I'm not going to trust anything that you say. Is that any better? Ethan says, when you put a YouTube video out, you tell your viewers, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Why obligate them in this way? Nobody owes you that shit. You just shouldn't even ask. And your viewers definitely shouldn't share your videos, I guess. Richter, Orlean down here seems to miss the sarcasm in the comment where he says, are you new to the English language? When someone says, can you please do X for me? They are not telling you that you owe them that thing. You are literally asking them a favor. Yeah, same as, hey, you should do this thing. If you're going to say this, then you should do this thing. You don't owe, you're just asking politely. That's kind of what should is. Drink with Crazy says, if I have not met the necessary requirements that they impose on me to earn that from them, then they shouldn't do any of it. Is he telling people what to do with the S word? That's why I preface it by saying, if you like what I do here, the individual gets to decide, not the group. I'm not demanding an obligation. Ethan says, nobody is demanding obligation. This whole issue is a straw man. It's bullshit. A Drink with Crazy said, you said it, that's why I responded. And so then he's got this screenshot of Ethan Van Skyvers. There's a difference between expecting a handout as a creator and outright refusing any help to your peers. We're competitors only in the mildest sense. Our actual competition is the awful messaging of the woke mainstream and its refusal to support indie creators who oppose it. Those talented indie creators are brave and deserve to be elevated by those of us who with means to do so. This is our obligation to the fans and each other, especially when it doesn't benefit us in any way. Now, maybe I get where he's coming from in this, and maybe I actually don't, but because I have seen people say, hey, I want to get in on this, and I'm actually just going to make a bunch of money for myself and fuck everybody else. I'm never going to talk about anybody else's thing. Now, this comes back specifically to stuff like Will Jordan, Shad Brooks, any of the other opiners that have built their huge platforms off saying the mainstream sucks and they want something else because all culture, all art sucks, but buy my book instead. Like, that is grifty, scammy behavior. And it is not out of bounds to say, hey, maybe if you want to support alternatives, you should actually support alternatives that don't just put money in your pocket. Because you're saying that art sucks. Everything sucks. I've seen so many opiners say that culture is completely stagnant and there is no such thing as good contemporary art. And they don't even look at contemporary books, period. How are you, if you're going to comment on contemporary art and tell me that art is dead, maybe you should actually look at some contemporarily made art. Or else you're full of bullshit and you're a con man trying to sell me your product while you still can. You are profitizing off people's anger and hope. And all you see is money that can be put in your pocket. That is what this is talking about. If you're going to start a thing, a movement, be a part of a movement that says this stuff all sucks, I want to help find better things, then there may be a silent contract that you won't just say, BT dubs, I can solve the problem that I told you exists. I'm the only one out there that can solve the problem. That is con man behavior, and that's what I'm associating this to. Maybe that's not what Ethan meant at all, but that's what I think of. Now, when I think of deserve to be elevated, I say the same thing when I'm talking about the fresh meat feature here on the channel is you put in the work, you submitted your work to this thing, and I think that you deserve, for having gone through the work to put your book together, I think it deserves to be seen. Which is why I started doing the fresh meat feature. Now, is that an obligation to anybody else to start doing the same thing? No, because it is a personal obligation to me, because I believe in and love art so much. And I also know that my art is not going to be the kind that everybody loves. I'm not going to love everything that comes through the fresh meat feature because, like I said, people have different tastes, different interests, different styles, different plots, different characters that they're drawn to, and I can't solve all of them. I don't want to try to solve all of them. I don't want to pretend to try to solve all of them. So I think that authors and creators deserve to have their work seen, minimally, if I can help that out. And it's nothing to do with anybody else. Are you going to tell me that you have not ever said, hey, that fireman works really hard. I think that fireman deserves to be recognized, so I'm going to say he did a great job. It is not a call to action on anybody else, though it can be inspiring to have other people say, hey, I'm going to appreciate this thing. Does that make any sense? So I didn't read Ethan Van Skyver's message here as being one to tell other people what to do. I do see it as Ethan has probably seen some con men come through his movement that is Comicsgate. I have seen grifters be like, you know what? All books suck except for mine. And then I read them. And they suck because they don't actually care about the arts. They see an opportunity to make money, like Eric July saw an opportunity to make money. So then Ethan says, yes, because I believe it. Again, same thing here. Like I just said, I believe that your books deserve to be recognized, so I do what I can to help get those books to their readers, which may not be me, because I think you deserve to help. I think you deserve the help that I can provide. It is on nobody else, but it's what I believe. And so I'm going to follow through in what I believe, and it's going to show in my actions. And that's what I'm asking other people to do, is if you say that you believe something, then you should follow through with action. That's all that this is. You are strawmanning the idea that people are demanding others promote them because you are obligated. I'm saying that's bullshit, and your obligations do exist because of your beliefs in creating Comicsgate, a parallel economy, or the Iron Age. If you stand by those ideas that you espouse, by this entire indie sphere, then your actions should match up. So again, it's specifically the words of Comicsgate, the parallel economy, the Iron Age. If you associate yourself with these groups that say, hey, this is what we believe, then you are saying that you align with those morals, with those beliefs, and your actions should follow the words that are coming out of your mouth. Whether or not you are even with these groups, if you say that you believe in something, you should generally try to show that you believe that thing. Now, it may take different forms, because like Christianity takes different forms depending on how people feel, depending on how people interpret. Some are more strict than others in behavior, in the way that they speak, in the people that they speak with or to, because people have different interpretations, different expressions, different personalities. It's fine. But if you say you're going to do something or you believe in something, then you should probably try to follow through with action, or else people are going to distrust you. Is that hard to believe? If you say, hey, I'm part of Comicsgate, and I believe in lifting up indie authors and indie comics people and getting us alternatives to what the mainstream are doing, because I am sick of the mainstream, and that's what this group means. If you say, hey, I am of this political regime, and so I believe in these political things, and so I'm going to vote in this direction. Like, if you say that you believe in a certain political direction and then you vote against those things, people are not necessarily going to see the follow through, because your actions speak louder than words. He then says, no, dude, I'm saying that you don't have an obligation to a specific creator who are theoretically demanding that you promote them. They don't actually exist. I'm saying you are obligated by your own belief system to do so, or you don't actually care. Again, I don't see the problem here. Yes, if you say that you believe something and then you don't actually do it, then no, you don't care. Your actions speak. A Drink with Crazy says, I almost fully agree. The they don't actually exist part is a counter to some that I have seen. However, I think we are mostly on the same page. As long as the individual comes first, that's where it all starts. B.A. Turner says, I really don't think that you guys are far from each other on the topic. In my opinion, Ethan Manskyver is referring to your eagerness to see the Iron Age creators get exposure and for the community to grow. For him, me, and others, it's Comicsgate and Iron Age in some instances, I'm assuming. And A Drink with Crazy says, there are very real possibilities that we are not far from each other. A consequence of this platform is fire being thrown at each other, which again has to do with trying to get clicks, trying to get popularity through fire contests, and assuming the worst in people, and it happens a lot. I have people come into my comments that no matter how straightforward I try to make it, that I am not that smart. I say I'm an idiot. I mean, come on. I'm trying to just share a perspective. I still have people assume that I'm trying to tell people what to do or how to think or what is good or what is not good or to not buy things. No, I'm just having conversation. That's all that I can do. So then later down, just a couple days ago, actually, there was this interaction between Immortal Rising Comics and Eric July, which I wanted to share because this has to do with this obligation thing and this power structure, this assumed power structure, because Immortal Rising Comics responded to something that Eric July said, and he said he said, you're undeserving. I can't find that. Can you point it out? You say you leveraged 17 years of entrepreneurial pursuits into this project. He's acknowledging that. Let me guess, he's a jealous communist too? You could have made a different product, but you chose comics. You don't even read indies or participate in the community out here, grinding as beginning entrepreneurs, except as drama fodder. Yeah. Eric July doesn't really comment on anybody but to shit on people. And that's what his entire channel is. It's either about his comic or he is insulting somebody. He's got an entire thing called Monetize Your Haters. So he really can't get mad at anybody for critiquing him. Anyway, just continue promoting a few already large money companies and leave the small guys alone if you find us irrelevant or a nuisance. You're not helping the marketplace. Save your bootstraps and pie platitudes and keep walking, which again, Eric July refuses to help anybody, which is also what this is about. I'm assuming that he went into this community, especially because of the connection to Etherman Skyver, used the tag and then said, I made it all on my own. I don't owe anybody. I'm not going to talk about anybody. So it's talking out of both sides of your mouth, saying I'm an indie, but also I'm not an indie, but also I hate the mainstream, but also the only way to solve the mainstream is to give me your money. Like, so you're going to get criticism if you do that. And so then he responds to this guy and says, hey man, I clicked your page and noticed that you had an active campaign. You only had 10 backers in 6 months. So what I did was essentially fund your campaign, of course, giving a tip to FMC. Here is what I'd like you to do. Work on your attitude because it is in a terrible spot. Being small does not make you admirable, nor does it justify your attitude towards creators that have worked extremely hard to get to where they are at. Dismissing or attempting to devalue their efforts is such a tone-deaf thing to do as he tries to dismiss somebody else's efforts. Nice. And will only turn people off to your project. You could have made a different product was a moronic way to approach this. Lastly, there is no community as it pertains to the independent comics. There is actually a community, especially if you go into Parallel Economy, Iron Age, Comicsgate, specifically entering into different subgroups, which is what was done here. The critique that you're pretending that there is not a community is insane. Or a bunch of different communities, really. The critique that, and he thinks that, okay, so work on your attitude because I don't like it. Who the frick are you to tell somebody else to do that? Here, I'm gonna throw money at you. Now dance for me, monkey. That is so beyond disrespectful. The cliques that you're around are not the only people that exist, and it is arrogance to operate as if it does. To tell someone that they don't participate or that they don't help the marketplace, despite them employing more people in comics than you ever have. So is this now a contest that, oh, I have more money than you, so fuck you? No. He's the one that needs the attitude to just... is incredibly stupid. You are in no position to be dismissive or disrespectful as you are. So is this part of the whole thing where it was like, hey, don't give these people your money because they hate you? Because all I get from Eric July is disdain. All I've gotten from Eric July when I've seen him from now on has been disdain. Where he says, oh, you want to talk about your favorite part of a comic? That's gay. He thinks, from everything that I've seen from him, he thinks that you are stupid. He thinks that you are below him. He thinks that he is better than you. And he thinks that actually liking art is dumb. But please, tell me if I'm wrong on this. Your project is funded and I do not want your items. I just want you to get to work, go be great, and work on your attitude. Eric July, I'd like you to work on your attitude as well. And I would also, for somebody whose entire thing is about like just attacking people, where he went after a Christian organization and called them fake Christians because he didn't get his way, and you want to tell somebody else to go and correct their attitude? My guy. Immortal Rising Comics says, keep your money and your insults. I don't need either. That's a storefront for me. Here's what I'd like you to do. You can address anything that I said. We can do it in DMs unless you need drama fodder for your brand. And the final tweet of this is going to be from Etherman Skyver. It's better take. Make comics because you have to. You can't not make comics. Find a way to get them published. Either work for someone else or make the best deal possible with an indie publisher to publish your stuff. You ain't getting much money this way, but it's okay for now. Just get your comics out there. Use this time to develop and improve. Find out if people like your work and build an audience and a customer base. No, there's no shortcut. Pay your creative dues. And for me, it's that statement there that tells me that Ethan Van Sciver is a creative person and not a businessman, not a scammer. However you feel about him, he is there for the creative stuff. Now, there are different types of people. Again, I can't put myself in the same camp as the right-to-market authors because they have a completely different perspective, different approach to creativity that is a lot less personal, and it sees it as a product. And so the feedback that I give can't be that helpful because it's not about products to me. It's about art, it's about expression, it's about telling that story that you have to tell because you have to tell it. And those are different mindsets. Now, both mindsets can be in one person, but if you are a right-to-market author doing a right-to-market story to fit a specific genre, I can't help you because that is a specific thing. That is the business mind. And I have tried to explain it to people who only see art in that way, and they do not get the creative impulse, the creative push of, I need to tell this story. I am writing this story. I don't care if it is not marketable. I need to tell this story. And I think the focus on marketing only, on the making money only, is one, what creates burnout. Two, what creates the competition that ends to Kate Corain style moments where you need to take out your competition because you're not offering anything special. Three, it ends up with lying in your marketing like Eric July does and having to sell it on a gimmick because the story is garbage. And you don't believe in the comic anyway. You're not writing because you feel like you have to. Now, these are all my impressions as an outsider to start the conversation, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but from watching from the sides, from looking at these conversations, these are the kind of thoughts, the kind of impressions of these people that I am getting. I will always support the creatives. I will not support the business people. That doesn't mean the business people don't exist. That doesn't mean they don't have a right to exist, but I don't have anything to do with them. I get disrespected all the time by them. I have been disrespected all the time from them. They can go and do their thing over there. We are not in the same industry. We're not competing against each other, but we're not peers either. Coming back to the conversation, the only time that you actually have an obligation to do anything is if you say words that make that promise. So if you say that I am part of this thing and I believe in this thing, then you kind of have an obligation to yourself to live your values to the best of your ability, or else you will not be believed. That is the bottom line. If you think that lying is not good, if you if you think that scamming is not good, if you think that bigotry is not good, then it's going to be expected that you try your hardest to live by those expectations, by your word that this is what you believe. And that doesn't mean that you won't fail sometimes, and that doesn't mean that you won't be able to, have accidents or slip up sometimes. But you try your hardest to live by those ideals. And that is where the obligation comes in. If you say, I believe this, so I'm going to follow through, that is the obligation. But that is the conversation. That is the drama that's been going on. Nobody owes anybody anything except to follow through on their words if they want to be believed. That's my opinion. What's yours? Let me know down in the comments below. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend. Happy 2024. Don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer.
For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die.
Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?